Throughout human history, certain innovations have not merely advanced civilization but utterly reshaped its very foundations. Among these pivotal creations, one unassuming material stands paramount, a silent witness to millennia of progress: paper. Its ubiquitous presence in the modern world often masks a profound truth, that this indispensable medium, responsible for the proliferation of knowledge and the very fabric of our documented existence, began not as a grand design, but as a serendipitous accident. Before paper's advent, the recording of human thought was a laborious and often fleeting endeavor. Ancient civilizations carved their stories into stone, etched laws onto clay tablets, or painted narratives on cave walls, each method demanding immense effort and offering limited portability. The weight and fragility of these early archives restricted the spread of information and the accumulation of shared wisdom. Later, more sophisticated materials emerged, such as papyrus from the reeds of the Nile and parchment crafted from animal skins. These offered greater flexibility and a smoother surface for writing, representing significant leaps forward. However, both were inherently costly, their production requiring specific environmental conditions or extensive animal husbandry, limiting their availability to elites and institutions. The true revolution in written communication would germinate thousands of miles to the east, within the sophisticated empire of ancient China. Here, a confluence of ingenuity and observation would culminate in the birth of paper, a material far more democratic, accessible, and versatile than any before it. The legend often credits Kailuan, an official of the Eastern Han court around 105 AD, with its invention. While Kailuan undoubtedly refined and standardized the papermaking process, making it viable for widespread production, the initial spark of discovery likely predates him, perhaps rooted in an accidental observation. The true accident might have been the discovery of fibers left behind after washing clothes made from hemp or mulberry bark, or the residue from ancient textile production. These discarded remnants, when left to soak and then pressed, could have formed a rudimentary, felt-like sheet. Imagine the scene: a worker, perhaps cleaning raw plant fibers for cloth, notices a thin, matted layer clinging to the bottom of a water trough. This delicate film, composed of intertwined plant fibers, might have been dismissed as mere waste. Yet, to an observant mind, it held the potential for something entirely new. This accidental formation, a natural consequence of retting and processing plant materials, was then refined through systematic experimentation. Kailuan and his contemporaries would have experimented with various fibers, including mulberry bark, hemp, old fishing nets, and rags, all readily available. The key was to break these materials down into individual fibers. The process involved soaking these raw materials, then pounding them into a pulp, often using water-powered trip hammers. This slurry of finely divided fibers was then mixed with water and poured onto a finely woven screen or mold. As the water drained away, the interlocking fibers formed a coherent, wet sheet. This fragile sheet was then pressed to remove excess water and carefully dried, often on heated walls or in the sun. The resulting material possessed remarkable qualities. It was lightweight, relatively durable, absorbent enough for ink, and, crucially, could be produced in far greater quantities and at a fraction of the cost of papyrus or parchment. For centuries, the secret of papermaking remained largely confined to China, a closely guarded technological advantage. It facilitated the meticulous record-keeping of the imperial bureaucracy, the flourishing of poetry and art, and the dissemination of Buddhist texts. China's intellectual and administrative prowess was undeniably amplified by this unassuming material. The pivotal moment for paper's global journey occurred not through deliberate sharing, but through conflict. In 751 AD, at the Battle of Talas, Arab forces clashed with the Tang dynasty. Among the captured Chinese prisoners were skilled papermakers, whose knowledge was then transferred to the Islamic world. This capture proved to be an unintended gift to intellectual history. The Abbasid Caliphate, then experiencing its golden age, eagerly embraced the new technology. Paper mills sprang up across the Islamic world, from Baghdad to Fez, making paper production a major industry. Scholars meticulously translated and copied Greek, Roman, and Persian texts, preserving ancient knowledge that might otherwise have been lost. Paper became the bedrock of the Islamic intellectual revolution. Libraries swelled with countless volumes, universities flourished, and advancements in mathematics, medicine, astronomy, and philosophy were rapidly documented and shared. The accessibility of paper fostered an unprecedented era of learning and innovation, laying much of the groundwork for later European advancements. From the Islamic world, paper slowly began its journey into Europe, primarily through Moorish Spain in the 10th and 11th centuries. Early European paper was often of lower quality than its Chinese or Islamic counterparts, and its adoption was initially slow, hindered by the entrenched use of parchment and a lack of readily available raw materials like rags. However, as trade routes expanded and the demand for written materials grew, paper mills gradually spread across the European continent. By the 14th and 15th centuries, paper production was becoming more established, though still a relatively expensive commodity compared to its later ubiquity. It was poised for a revolutionary partnership. The true catalyst for paper's transformative impact in Europe arrived in the mid-15th century with Johannes Gutenberg's invention of the movable type printing press. This ingenious machine needed a consistent, affordable, and readily available substrate to fulfill its promise of mass communication. Parchment was too expensive, too inconsistent, and too difficult to print upon efficiently. Paper was the perfect complement. Its fibrous structure readily absorbed ink, its uniform thickness allowed for consistent pressing, and its relatively low cost made mass production of books, pamphlets, and broadsides economically feasible. The printing press and paper together unleashed an explosion of information. This synergy democratized knowledge on an unprecedented scale. Literacy rates soared, new ideas spread like wildfire, challenging existing authorities and sparking intellectual and religious reformations. The Renaissance, the scientific revolution, and the Enlightenment were all fueled by the relentless flow of information made possible by paper and print. Over subsequent centuries, paper production continued to evolve. The Industrial Revolution brought steam-powered machinery, allowing for continuous paper production from wood pulp, a far more abundant raw material than rags. This innovation further reduced costs and made paper a truly mass-produced commodity, integral to every aspect of modern life. From newspapers and books to currency and packaging, paper became the silent backbone of the industrial age. Even in the digital era, where screens dominate much of our information consumption, paper retains its unique tactile presence and enduring utility, serving as a tangible link to our thoughts, our memories, and our history. The journey of paper, from an accidental residue to a global medium, is a testament to human ingenuity and the profound impact of simple observation. It reminds us that often, the greatest innovations are not born from deliberate, complex designs, but from the quiet recognition of potential in the most unassuming of circumstances. This humble material, born from chance, became the enduring vessel for humanity's collective intellect, forever changing the world by giving our thoughts a lasting form and allowing the whispers of one mind to echo across continents and through the ages.